Just wanted to say hey to everybody. How's it going? And this week, hey everyone, just wanted to say hello from here at Metro Central, and wanted to say that things at Metro Central are going great, and we have about 50 people who come in every day to get the services that we have for them. And at the Welcome Inn, they're up and running at full capacity, and that is going wonderful as well. I wanted to say hello to all the mini Metro kids. Miss you guys and look forward to when we can get back together. And I hope in the meantime you're reading your Bible and practicing some of those verses about fruits of the Spirit. And also like to say here at Metro Central, the renovations are going on, and that's super exciting. They have it all taped off, and so we're still operating, but construction is also going on, so that's wonderful. And this week at Metro Central, we had a beautiful dance by our Indigenous friend Jamie, who did a healing dance right on Coronation, and you can see that later in the video today. And hey everyone, we have these wonderful Metro sweaters. They're $40, and if you tried to get a sweater before we didn't have your size, we now have all sizes. We also have t-shirts as well for $20, and you can contact Lucas for that. And these are great sweaters. They're so warm and cozy, and great Christmas gifts that benefit a great cause. Also, I'd like to thank all the volunteers. I get to be here every day and see the wonderful donations that people bring in: toques, gloves, mitts, soup, and also cookies. I love the cookies, and also for the community, of course. And I'd just like to thank the people who come in and volunteer their time, their talents, and just praying for what's going on at Metro Central and how we get to be a part of seeing changed lives in our community.
Right now is the needed time. Now is the needed time. Right now is a needed time. Now is a needed time. Oh, now is the needed time. I'm down on my bended knees, down on my bended knees. Lord, won't you come by here? I'm down on my bended knees, oh Lord, on my bended knees. Oh Lord, won't you come by here? Now is the needed time. 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 Right now is the needed time. Even if you don't stay long, Lord, if you don't stay long, Lord, won't you come by here? Lord, if you don't stay long, Lord, if you don't stay long, Lord, won't you come by here? Right now is a needed time. Now is a needed time. Now is a needed
Well, thank you so much for joining us this weekend. We're entering into our season of Advent, and we're going to be talking about peace. And it's very timely for this, just period in society. I've talked to many people who would say that 2020 has been a surprisingly refreshing year. Jesus says, "Come to me, and I will give you rest. I will give you comfort." And when we yoke ourselves to Him, something happens in our lives. When we adopt His patterns of rest and we actually step into Sabbath that He offered, some people are saying this forced me into just a different pattern and my pace is slowed. I think for a lot of people, 2020 has been very stressful. It's felt chaotic. It's felt unknown. And you can really tell by the way that our advertisers target us, can't you? Have you noticed that every commercial seems to start with a really soft piano with delayed single notes? And then some sort of catchphrase like, "During these uncertain times," or "Now more than ever, we are in this together." And then the tagline, Toyota, or Snickers, or whatever it might be. That during these times, their product will be the solution for this unprecedented chaos. They all seem exactly the same. It's kind of interesting. Everybody claims to have the answer. A few months ago, we were driving down Highway 33 and turning left at Highway 97 there. And we often see guys trying to get money there. They're on the median. And I rolled down my window and I gave one of the guys, I forget what it was, a snack of some sort. And this guy had face tattoos. And this guy looked really scary. And he leans down into the car that I'm driving. And he's like, "Thanks, man." He said, "People are kind of afraid of me." He said, "I just got out of prison," and he explained what he did, and it was horrible. And then he said to me, "But don't worry, man. I do yoga." And I thought, well, that's going to help. The light turned green and I left. The way that he had decided that he was going to cope with the stress and anxiety in his life was yoga. And the world offers a lot of solutions, doesn't it? I mean, their product, whatever it might be, the next iPhone, the next bit of technology, experiences. They say collect experiences, not things. Or maybe even things like alcohol, romance, affairs, social media. Netflix wants people to just binge watch. It's an escape. And there's so many different solutions that people try, but let's be honest and say that they don't work. And here's the reason. Because at the end of the day, our problem cannot be dealt in a way that is superficial. Because our problem is our own mortality. It's our own fragility. And it's the fact that the people that we love more than anything in the world are also mortal and also fragile. I received an email a few years ago that my best childhood friend had passed away. His name was Spencer. And he was a doctor, and he was an amazing man. He traveled the world and helped many people. He was becoming very well known. One day he had a pain in his side, and so he went to the doctor, and they told him that he had kidney cancer. And he died a couple short months later. You see, this is the reality for all of us, is that we're fragile and we're mortal, and we recognize that any one of us at this exact moment could have cancer within us. And so because our anxiety is rooted within the human condition, that we are mortal, remedies that do not address that condition will do very little to help us. So in Advent, as we look at what the Bible has to say about the coming Messiah, we note really quickly that the Bible makes very lofty claims. This is what Isaiah says, "For unto us a child is born, to us a son is given, and the government will be on his shoulders. And he will be called Wonderful Counselor, Mighty God, Everlasting Father, Prince of Peace. Those are beautiful titles for Jesus. Wonderful Counselor. In other words, he is all-knowing. He's all wisdom. He is Creator. Mighty God. This Messiah won't be a baby. It will be God wrapped in flesh. Sometimes when we think of Jesus, we just leave him as a baby. Everlasting Father. In other words, he always will be and always has been. And because of those, he can be the Prince of Peace. Even in times of turmoil, Christians have encountered this Prince of Peace. In Rome, they were encountering intense persecution, like we talked about last week. They built underground tunnels called catacombs, and that's where they would meet. They would bring those that were martyred down into the tunnels, and they would bury them there. And so there's thousands upon thousands of skeletons there today. This was their life. Every family likely had a martyr. Everybody had lost somebody that they loved dearly. This was a terrible time in church history. But listen to what Paul says to them. May the God of hope fill you with all joy and peace as you trust in him, so that you may overflow with hope by the power of the Holy Spirit. What an offer. Like overflowing hope. That you will be filled with hope and joy and peace. But how does that even work? You might be thinking to yourself, you know what, I'm a Christian, and I haven't encountered that. Do some of these scriptures in the Bible sometimes feel like false representation? Like Jesus said that he came that we might have abundant life. Do you ever think, but I don't see that. I don't feel that. And don't you just hate it when people say to you, just don't worry about it. Stop worrying. Or why are you so anxious? We have something that is stressing us out and people say, just don't worry about it. Think about something else. I can't just tell myself to stop worrying and then wake up the next day and be fearless and worry-free. And Jesus knows this. He created us. And here's what he says about it. He says in Matthew 6, therefore, do not worry about tomorrow. There it is again. Don't worry about it. But Jesus gives us the remedy. He says, for tomorrow will worry about itself. Each day has enough trouble of its own. What he just said is mind-blowing. He said, tomorrow will worry about itself. And for us, we're thinking, what does that mean? Just ignore tomorrow, don't think about it? How will tomorrow worry about itself? He is using a literary device here called prosopopoeia. This was commonly used. It's where you animate or give a personality or a personhood to an inanimate object. Tomorrow is an inanimate object. He's giving it a personhood. And he's saying, I am that person. He is saying, tomorrow may be unknown and scary, but I am tomorrow, and I am the Prince of Peace. He's saying, I will worry about it for you. Amazing. Remember, I'm the Alpha and the Omega. I'm the first and the last. I'm the everlasting Father. I will worry about it on your behalf. This is a profound offer. He's saying, I'll take care of you. You see, I can be the Prince of Peace because I am the everlasting Father. I want to personally worry about it on your behalf. I met a guy on Skid Row with an interesting business plan. You see, living a homeless life is full of anxiety. People are worried about their possessions. There's constant theft. When they sleep, they're worried that things will be stolen. There's never a moment of just rest. There's no sense of home or just safety and security. There's a lot of violence and just fear for their physical safety. And so I met this guy with this business opportunity. He said, if you give him $20, he will let you sleep in this little tent that he made. That's him outside of it guarding the person sleeping inside. He said, for $20, I will give you a night of protection. You can come and sleep in here. I'll keep you dry. I'll look after your food and your stuff. And he personally guarantees that nobody will touch you. And this guy had some weapons that he didn't show me, but he was bragging about. He said, I am the best there is. I am the one who can worry about life for you. Wow. Now imagine if God himself gave that offer. That is essentially exactly what God is doing. He is saying, I will personally see to it that you're taken care of. When John, the Apostle John, is on Patmos, he's in prison. He's the last disciple left. The others have all been killed. And they tortured John, and they boiled him in hot oil. And then he's laying on the floor, completely opened up. His skin would have been a mess, laying there close to death, thinking, like, Jesus, what is going on? Where's the joy? Where's the peace? I don't feel any of it. He would have been in so much turmoil. And Jesus shows up in his prison cell, and John collapses. He collapses because of the appearance of Jesus. You see, his face had the brilliance of the sun. That's how it shone. And in his right hand, he is holding 7 stars. This is impossible for us to properly imagine. But when John comes back to consciousness, Jesus touches him. And he says this, do not be afraid. You see, he can say that because he said, I am the first and the last. I am the living one. I was dead, and now look, I am alive forever and ever. And I hold the keys of death and Hades. This is the resurrected, Jesus. And this is the word that he would have for us today. You're fragile. You're mortal. You don't know what tomorrow is going to bring. But I hold the keys to death. And I am tomorrow. And I am your good shepherd. And I will go before you. And I will prepare a table for you in the presence of your enemies. In other words, the things that scare us the most. He's offering us his communion, that is his time, his presence, and he's offering us his comfort, where we can just rest because we're with him. You see, the birth of Jesus that was prophesied by Isaiah, the Prince of Peace coming, is such a powerful reminder to us. You see, God not only brought Jesus into the world, but he did it in such a way that was such a beautiful reminder of his Alpha and Omega power. Matthew 2 says this, after Jesus was born in Bethlehem in Judea, during the time of King Herod, Magi from the east came to Jerusalem and asked, where is the one who'd been born King of the Jews? We saw his star when it rose and have come to worship him. We hear this so often that we forget what just happened there. These magi are expert astrologers. And for some reason, they saw this in the sky, this star that had been so profound that they decided to go after it. What could it have possibly been? And there's 3 dominant theories about what this star was. The first theory is that it was a comet. But this is very unlikely. The star settled over the house. And further than that, comets were symbols of death and destruction at that time. So the Magi would not have viewed it as fulfillment to this prophecy and would never have done that. This is not comet-like behavior anyways. Another theory is that this is an event where Jupiter and Saturn aligned, which was extremely rare, and it gave the impression that stars were moving in reverse. But it would have been such a subtle event that the Magi would not have even noticed with the naked eye. And third, the most viable option is that this was a star entering the supernova phase, or a star death, where a star shines very brightly for a period. And most theologians and scientists believe that this is by far the most viable option. A supernova was discovered in 1604, and it was 13,000 light years away, which is a long ways away. A light year is how far something can travel in a year. In other words, that supernova happened 13,000 years prior. In other words, this event that just happened was set in place thousands of years prior to when the Magi even saw it. That God in his sovereignty knew that at that moment that the Messiah would be born and set this in place thousands of years prior. Amazing. This is God. See, God controls the heavens. The fact that they saw a star and followed it is so incredible. It speaks to his power. And it's also beyond amazing that they were even in Bethlehem. But God knew that they would be. Micah 5:2 says, "But you, Bethlehem Ephrathah, though you are small among the clans of Judah, out of you will come for me one who will rule over Israel, whose origins are from old, from ancient times." This is 600 years prior. He had to be born in Bethlehem, but here's the problem, is that Mary and Joseph were living in Nazareth. How would they get to Bethlehem? How would this work? It's 90 miles away. She's pregnant and large. In Luke 2, Caesar gives a royal decree, which is a census, and makes everybody go back to their hometowns. The reason he did this was pride. He wanted to demonstrate to the world how many people he was ruling, and it was also a way to gain more tax. He taxed them. This was to increase his military might. So they have to go to Bethlehem. He forced everyone back. Does this surprise God? Did this catch him off guard? No, he knew. He's sovereign. He knew for all of eternity that this event was going to happen. See, he's the first and the last. What to Mary and Joseph was a terrible trial. It seemed like God was out of control. What do you mean we have to go now on this 4 to 7 day journey while being pregnant? God, where are you in this? But he knew. They thought this was just a trial from an unpredictable and selfish government, but it was known by our everlasting Father. Did coronavirus surprise God? Not a chance. Does our health surprise God? Not a chance. Is our lifespan something that will surprise him? Nothing is outside of his knowledge, and nothing can stop his plans. Isaiah says this, "The Lord of heaven's armies has spoken. Who can change his plans? When his hand is raised, who can stop him?" This is our God. This is Jesus. Sometimes we forget that he is all-knowing and he is all-powerful. And that is who Jesus is, our good shepherd. Your life is fully known to him. Every event in your life is known. Everything. Your birth, every step, your death, it's known. Psalm 139 says, "Your eyes saw my unformed body." We were before the foundations of the world, you were created. Your soul. That you were given a name. And God looked upon you. All of the days ordained for me were written in your book before one of them came to be. You see, our lives are fully known to him. They're completely in his hands. He's a good God that loves you entirely. His plans for you are good. This is so beautiful. He has a future for you. He knows what it is. He is there tomorrow. Before the creation of the world, you were chosen and adored, and this is so amazing. If you think about the fact that at one time you were just simply one of 25 million sperm. Crazy thought. Racing to that egg, but it was already predetermined that you would win. That your birth was predetermined. That your entire life was known to God. That you're not an accident. That nothing is catching him off guard. So from the tiniest microcosm to the infinite universe, God is sovereign over every little bit of it. So when Jesus says, do not worry about tomorrow, let me worry about it for you, it's the most amazing invitation ever. And it's why he can be the Prince of Peace. It's why when we're dealing with struggle, when we're anxious, we can say, God, I can't do this. Can you worry about it for me? And then we can just rest. Just say, God, I don't know any of the answers here, but can you please worry for them on my behalf? And he does that. He says, cast your anxiety on me. These are your worries. He says, because I care for you. This is the sovereign God. He's saying, give them to me. I'll take them for you. Let me do it. Let me do it. And this is a practice that we need to get into. It's actually naming the things that we're anxious about and giving them to the one who loves us and is so freely willing to take them from us. Let me pray. So Jesus, thank you for your word, God. Father, I pray that we would have a real vision of the resurrected Jesus, that you stand before us, face shining like the sun, holding 7 stars in your right hand, and say to us, do not be afraid. I am the first and the last. I am the living one. I was dead, and now look, I'm alive forever and ever, and I hold the keys to death and Hades. God, I pray that our vision of you would be accurate, God. God, that truth, God, would produce that overflowing hope that the Romans had. Thank you, Jesus, that you love us. Amen.
When peace like a river attendeth my way, when sorrows like seas billows roll, whatever my lot, thou hast taught me to say, it is well
In every step and jingle, Jamie Stimson has a prayer for community.
My prayers today are going to be dedicated to those infected by the overdose crisis and to their families, and also dedicated to the homelessness situation. And that I just pray that we can all come together.
Jingle dresses worn by women and young girls are regularly seen at powwows. The dresses have metal cones that jingle as the women move. The shape and sound is said to spread healing. Stimson's dance outside of Metro Community, a faith-based outreach center in Kelowna, is dedicated to helping those actively experiencing addiction and homelessness.
To help others who have been infected on the street. I want to help those who have been involved in sex trade. I also want to be an advocate for the murdered and missing Indigenous women because I lost my mom. My mother was murdered in 1980 on the streets of Calgary.
Stimson has now been clean and sober for over 3 years and is a student at UBCO, attending classes with her daughter, dedicating her life to helping others by hosting Wellbriety meetings, sharing her story, and through dance.
It's very special to have someone with her background who's come from addiction and homelessness herself and who has such a redemptive story and a lovely way of actually expressing that.
My heart gets really heavy around this time of the year because I am a recovering addict myself, and I used to live on the streets. I was in and out of addiction since I was 14. And my heart gets heavy for those who I see who are living on the street because I know how it feels. And I know they didn't choose that life. They weren't born an addict. They didn't wish to be homeless. Every one of them has a story of their own, and the real issues lie deeper within.
Her dance that provides healing now spread through the streets of downtown Kelowna, that many call home as temperatures continue to drop. Sydney Morton, Global News, Kelowna.